Jake works in the sound industry and is a sound insulator or integrator. He works on anything from putting in the sound systems to maintaining it. He has worked in a lot of places such as stadiums, arenas, and sports venues. Now let's get on with today's video. Tell me a few things you do working in the sound industry then.
Well, okay, so I've been in the industry pretty much in one way or another for about 20 years. And the things I do currently is very much what we call installation or integration. So I put lots of speakers to put it in lots of big venues. So over the years I've worked predominantly in stadiums, arenas, and sports venues. And what I do now is I do everything from beginning where you meet a client and you say, what do you need? They give you a scope. I then try and design them a sound system that will do what they need it to do and what their expectations are. And then I do everything from installation where I stick it in and then work with the client to make sure that it's tested and commissioned and sounds the best it can do and operates the way it needs to for that certain venue. With some venues, I cross over into what's called the production side of things. So there's generally two sides. There's integration, which is like putting things in permanently. And then there's production where you say you take a venue like an arena where they've got shows coming in every day. And some of those places I have to interface with them as well. I've got many friends who are in that side of the industry, and many of the companies I worked for over the years, I link up with them. So it's a case of when the client has certain people coming in that wanting to use part of the install system, which they do at some venues that I've worked at, I basically make sure those will work together. In that way. So for me, being a sound engineer is not, there's only a sort of small part of it where I still do the sound bit, but really I'm massively around the whole thing now and projects, and I put lots of speakers in venues. That's basically the thing about it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's really cool. Yes. So what made you want to go into this career path?
Okay, so I like a lot of people. I think some people just fall into it. I kind of fell into it a bit. I originally trained as an electrical engineer, so I did an apprenticeship in what they call motor and generator control. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? And that's really, it's not, doesn't sound that exciting. So I love music massively. So what kind of happened was I was in bands. I play guitar, but sometimes there's too many guitarists and they needed sound engineers. So I kind of combined a bit of electrical knowledge and a bit of sound engineering knowledge. And then I started off working in schools. So that's how I kind of really, that was my, so like you're at school, I would be the technician doing the shows and the drama shows and all those sort of things. And what made me want to do it, it was just a lot more fun than doing electrical work. So that's kind of all those it certainly seemed like it was a bit more exciting than doing that side of things. So yeah.
Yeah, much more exciting. What's something you love about your profession?
This is one I had a very simple sentence for. So it's every day is different. So there are a bit of routine things, but it certainly isn't. Where the position I'm in is I go in every day probably with a plan, and then by about 10 o'clock, just because of the reactivity of, say, a venue or a client or a situation, a show or something that's going on that's using the sound system, that all goes out the window by about 10 o'clock. And I'm then spending most of the day either sorting something out or trying to plan for the next thing. So it's definitely not a routine job, and it's very much a very reactive job. So it's what we call is we can try and plan as much as we can for things, but I do actually enjoy the fact that it's a little bit random and a bit reactive. So yeah, that's I don't know. Some people wouldn't want that as a job, but it's quite good. So
Yeah, I like variety as well.
Yeah.
What's something you find difficult about your profession?
Um, so sound, everyone has a pair of these. So I'd say everybody's a critic. Um, everybody's a so where I work with a lot of different people and a lot of and everybody has a perspective on how something should sound and how it should work and sometimes it's very hard, and especially when I was younger and really cared a lot more about what people think. I still think I care what people think, but I find that I think I'm yeah, everybody has that opinion of how something should be, and trying to meet the expectations of doing what they want me to do for them can be a bit of a difficult thing. Can be challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound quite challenging. What advice would you give someone wanting to go into the sound industry?
Okay, so to get in sometimes is a bit of a trying to work out where you get. You might know someone or anything, but I think anybody who's going into it, sort of looking at, say, past school, college, is try and get a way into volunteer into things. Go along to some gigs with a company if you can, or anyone you might be able to get a foot in the door with. I think study hard. Study hard, work hard at school, get to know your fundamentals. If you've got a music technology A level or a, I don't know what there is these days, BTECs or other things that allow you to study sound engineering stuff, do those. But mostly, yeah, I think during holidays and breaks, is trying to get out actually in the real world and see if you can actually get to go to to see it actually in action, so you know what you're kind of getting into. And then you kind of got an expectation that there's some companies around. One that I used to work for about a year ago, they actually do a full-on apprenticeship scheme where um, I spoke to the apprentices on what I do in terms of installation, but they actually do. They're in the touring industry and the production industry, where they go into venues and put big speakers up for big bands like they've done Elton John and people like that over the years, and they get to have a couple of years in the company in an apprenticeship scheme. So there are those sort of things around if people want to get started in the sound industry. There's other areas like studio stuff as well. They might get into production in terms of studios, and a bit like you're doing right now, podcasts and writing music for things. So there's lots out there in the creative world to try and get out. But the main thing is it's not going to be suddenly earning you lots of money at the beginning. It's going to be volunteer, get out there, try some stuff for free if you can spare the time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
really great advice. During your career, what's the best thing you've ever done?
Well, this is really hard. I it all kind of this was really helpful to think about over 20 years of doing lots of things. So I'm going to name drop. So the best job I had for about 3 years was I worked on the. It's a bit old now. It's about, well, must be getting on for about 7 years old now. Was the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I was there for 3.5 years, and it taught me a lot. I was essentially, we put in about 5,000 speakers. I didn't personally put 5,000 speakers up, but I was part of the team there that we built the sound system that is a very good sound system. I'm very proud of what was achieved. It was a big team thing, but that's probably whenever anyone talks to me and I want to show off. That's the one I talk about mostly, because some people have been there and they've experienced it, and it's not just like a normal tannoy system for a football stadium. It's built like a production system. So people like Beyonce do gigs there, Guns N' Roses, and they use the production part of the production system that was put in. So that's probably one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Nice. What does your typical week look like?
Well, this is going completely the other way now from how exciting things was. That can be anything from turning up to site, seeing if there's a problems on any systems. So things like maintenance, servicing, cleaning. I still do cleaning. I get a hoover out, but I meet clients. I sit down with them. I do project management for teams, people that do the work. And then I do quite a lot of engineering. I program systems, so I use a PC to program certain parts of the systems. And because a lot of my sort of systems, because they're big over a whole big site, I've got a lot of what I do is a bit IT-ish, so there's a bit of IT involved. And but I get to do some of the sound engineering stuff right at the end when I do sort of testing and commissioning. So, for example, this week coming up, I'm hopefully going to be doing a little bit of that at a site that I'm doing nights on, and I get to actually do some sound engineering, make it sound nice. So yeah, so that's kind of, it's again, like I said before, every day's different. So it's quite a yeah. I've got a plan for tomorrow, but that could go out the window by about 10 o'clock. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. What's the most important skill for succeeding in sound engineering?
Um, I'd like to say there was an easy answer to that. I think I actually came back to the fact that, like any job, to have a good attitude when you turn up and a willingness to listen and learn is actually a better thing than, say, a specific sound engineering skill. Yeah, you can learn to mix, you can learn to do IT sides, you can learn to set up a big system, you could learn to be something what's called system tech, you could be something called a monitor engineer, where you're mixing what people hear in their ears if they're singing and stuff like that. There's lots of different bits. People lend themselves to their own skills, but I would say that with any skill coming into any industry like that is just be willing to learn as much of it as you can and have a good attitude with the people that are around you, even when you might need a bit of patience with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
attitude is always really important.
Yeah.
What has the role taught you?
To have a good attitude and a willingness to learn. Also, yeah, lots of technical stuff. I've been thrown in at the deep end a lot in terms of technical situations. And it's grown me. It's I learn. I'm very much a person that learns by doing. It's not good putting a textbook in front of me. I don't really take it all in, and it doesn't all suddenly become part of me. So I think what the role teaches me is just to keep doing different things so that I learn better, because I do it as I learn. So I learn as I do. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm really interested. How do you make sure the sound works over a long period of time?
Yeah. So first of all, it's got to be designed right in the first place. So there's a lot of great people out there, people who I know and everything. And what they do is you can have a software where you can put the building in the software, a bit like, and people use something as simple as like Google SketchUp or Trimble or whatever some people might use. So it's like a very simple 3D model of a building, like a room. And a lot of manufacturers now have a software where you can import that into their software, and the design is you can put the speakers in the design, and then you can generate some sound through it in the modeling world, in a virtual world, a bit like virtual reality. And you can see heat, so it goes red where it's the loudest, and then to blue
Oh,
when it's the coldest. And what they use that software to do is to try and work out the best sound system to go into that room. So what speaker brand, how loud it has to be, um, other settings that I could get very technical about. But so as long as it's designed right in the first place, that's the first part. But then after that, it's basically regularly turning up and checking it's okay, cleaning it, testing it, and making sure that that something's not just about to break. Because sometimes systems in venues I'm in, generally we say about 10 years is how long they'll be in for, but sometimes they're there for 15 years. So you go to some venues and they're 15 years. So the one that's in the O2 Arena currently is 8 years old. So in the next few years, that may be coming up for a bit of a renewal. But again, it might not be. It depends on money, and that's a very well designed system and very well maintained. So yeah.
mm, cool. I heard you said you worked in like big stadiums and stuff like that. How would you make all the sounds unison in the big stadium to everyone in there?
Yeah, I mean, that's going back to what I'm saying. So if the maths and the model's done properly in the beginning. That's great. But then, so the thing is a speaker can be a different distance from you to somebody else in there, and also it's like the time sound gets to, because you have the speed of sound essentially.
Yeah.
What happens is a lot of clever things are done within the system where, say, a speaker is next to another speaker, but the other speaker's slightly sat back to cover somebody else. You can delay the speaker, so you put it like, so it's almost like an echo behind it. I'm trying to put this into the, so in a stadium, what an acoustician would do. These are people, sound engineer and acoustician, generally done by consultants. Is they will take some manufacturers and again put it in the model and see which one best. And that heat thing again, where they can try and get as most constant, we call it sound pressure level across the area, is the best they can do. You might have seen, if you've ever been in a venue or gone to a gig, these big massive speaker hangs, big black boxes that sometimes curve like this, like a banana. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're called line array systems, and they came around about 20 odd years ago. And when they had that technology, they were able to pinpoint sound much more accurately for a smaller group of people to make it smoother across, say, an area. So
Yeah.
that's generally how we look to when we're looking at a stadium system. If it lets us, we still go back to big boxes as well, or something, depending on money and whether people can afford a big one. But yeah, essentially, if you had all the money in the world, you can make a stadium sound very good these days. Bearing in mind they're very echoey buildings, so all because what you're dealing with as well is reflections off all the surfaces, so and the roof and all this. So if they're made of metal, all the sound's going to reflect off them, and that's actually not a great thing for sound because it becomes a bit wishy-washy. So in stadiums, what we look to do is to try and focus the sound just at the people, and also try and do, some people do acoustic treatment, so they deaden the sound, like they cover the metal with something like fabric or that sort of thing. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. You had me like hooked on there.
Yeah.
Um, what's the weirdest thing about your profession?
There's certainly some interesting characters in my industry. A lot of people can argue things. So you can be in an art, you can be in a situation where somebody has a very interesting point of view, a weird point of view on how something sounds. So there you go. There are some weird. I'm not saying there are weird points of view. Maybe is the best thing. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If you were to swap your job for one day, who would it be with?
That's easy. If I could be a musician, I'd be a musician of some description. So
Oh,
yeah, I can't give you exactly who, but I'd say just to be a musician and play guitar for a living would be great. Didn't quite go that way for me, and I've got lots of friends who are, but it's yeah. If I could do that full time for a living, I would do. One day, I still do that kind of, but yeah. There you go. Or maybe something totally out there like a race car driver. I don't know, but definitely a musician is probably where I'd be. Yeah.
yeah, I love music as well.
Mm.
What's one thing you never thought you needed but now rely on?
If I could go back to my 21-year-old self or 20, it's patience. I think just have some patience. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think I think when you're young, it's kind of like you just want to get somewhere very quickly. Some people are very proactive, but just take it as it comes and not get too wound up with things that don't happen instantly. So yeah, that's one thing I definitely rely on is patience. I don't have a lot of it still. I'm still learning. People would say to you, I probably don't have a lot of patience, but I try to have a bit of patience. So yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, you've already given a few experiences, which was really nice, but tell me one experience in your career that felt like magic.
Right. So I don't have a lot of these, but this is the one. So um, I was very lucky enough to be involved with the 2012 Olympics. It was a challenging, very challenging time.
Mm.
However, on one of the days, on the day of the final ceremony, the leaving ceremony, I sat in the London Stadium, or the Olympic Stadium as it was then, And at one end, I sat and had a drink in front of a big speaker box, which is my favourite brand of speaker. Didn't know it then, but it sounded amazing and it was magic. But at the other end, because what was coming through it was Paul McCartney at the other end sound checking. So I was listening to his sound check while I was in the stadium. So that's probably one of the magic moments of it sounded amazing and it was Paul McCartney. So I was very a Beatle. What more could you want, really? So yeah, there's my magic moment. I think I've got a few. I've got two or three others. I sat on the umpire's chair at Wimbledon Centre Court and tested the microphone a few times. That was, I don't know if that was magic, but it was certainly something fun to say I'd done. So
Yeah, nice. Name one company you would love to work with.
that's hard because quite recently, as of last year, I went self-employed. So
Oh, cool.
I now have so really the company I want to work with is me, which is
Nice.
nice. And it seems to be going all right so far. I'm doing it. But in terms of what I do, I think I've already been very lucky in that I've worked for probably in the world of stadiums and some larger sporting venues. I've worked with the three that have done that the most already. So I've been
Mm.
very lucky in that I've worked with those companies previous. And now I've taken that skill and what I've learned, and I'm now doing it a bit. I mean, I'm still working for some of them self-employed, but for now, I don't have a company that I'm desperate to go and work for. I'm quite happy being self-employed and working for the clients that I have.
Yeah, sounds great. Um, Describe your profession in 3 words.
Challenging, tiring, and fun. There you go. Is that
Um,
right? I like the
yeah,
three-word
it's
one. That's a
great.
good one.
Yeah. And the last question.
No, we're
Um,
finishing. No.
um, what has being in the sound industry taught you?
um, Again, it comes back to the reactivity of every day is a school day. So as much as you're at school and we're all at school, and I'm still learning every day about stuff within the industry, and be it technical, be it about how I manage people, how I do what I do. I'm still learning about myself and how I handle that. I'm still dealing with how I deal with clients and all those sort of things. But yeah, being in the sound industry, it's very creative and very, yeah, very broad avenue to go into. Well, certainly in my experience, yeah. Some people might just have, no, I'm just doing this, but certainly I've just stuck with that. So yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.